Have you ever stopped to consider why so many ancient civilizations on Earth have the same stories and the same memories of the same events? What if one of those stories about a catastrophic event that scattered humanity across the globe and created every language that we speak today was one of those shared stories? Welcome aboard Arnie's Brain Train. I'm Alex Arnold, and today we're going to be diving into the story of the Tower of Babel. 12 completely separate cultures spread across every continent all tell virtually identical stories about a massive tower that angered the gods and led to the confusion of languages. From the steaming jungles of the Amazon to the frozen peaks of Tibet, ancient civilizations preserve the same shocking account, with details so specific that they'll make you question everything that you thought you knew about ancient human history. All of my sources and references are listed in the description below, so buckle up for this incredible journey through time. First and foremost, bear with me today as we're trying to get through 12 different cultures and 12 different stories in a relatively short amount of time. So, we're not just talking about the biblical Tower of Babel. Ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets, Native American oral traditions passed down through countless generations, Hindu scriptures written on palm leaves, Chinese Imperial Chronicles, and even isolated Pacific Island cultures all tell stories containing these identical core elements that appear nowhere else in human storytelling. Unified humanity speaking one sacred language, massive collaborative construction projects to build towers reaching heaven, divine anger at human presumption, supernatural confusion of languages as divine punishment, and the systematic scattering of peoples across the entire earth. The mathematical probability of 12 independent cultures developing identical mythology frameworks? Statistical experts calculate it at less than 1 in several billion. So what we're looking at is either the most impossible coincidence in human storytelling, or compelling evidence of a shared global memory so traumatic and significant that every culture on Earth preserved it for thousands of years through oral traditions, sacred texts, and cultural ceremonies. Let's start where human civilization first emerged. The Sumerian epic poem Enmerkar and the Lord of Harada, carved into clay tablets around 2100 BCE, describes a golden age where all humanity spoke one sacred divine language that connected them directly to the gods. According to this ancient account, the god Enki became concerned about human unity and power, deliberately scattering them across the earth with confused speech to prevent their collective strength from challenging divine authority. This remarkable text predates the biblical Genesis account by over a millennium, suggesting that the Hebrew scribes may have been recording an even more ancient tradition. The Babylonian historian Puranas, writing in 300 BCE with access to temple archives we've now lost, recorded detailed accounts of how survivors of the Great Deluge built a tower so architecturally ambitious that it literally threatened the cosmic order of heaven itself. The gods destroyed the structure in divine wrath and gave each construction team different languages to ensure that they could never again unite for such projects. Archaeological evidence shows that Babylon's legendary Etemenanki Ziggurat, whose name literally translates to foundation of heaven and earth, stood nearly 300 feet tall, with 7 ascending levels, matching descriptions found in these ancient tower accounts with startling precision. But here's what makes this extraordinary. Remarkably similar stories appear in cultures that had absolutely zero contact with Mesopotamian civilization, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years. The ancient Hindu Puranas contain tower-building stories that will blow your mind with their detailed parallels to Mesopotamian accounts. The Matsya Purana describes how after the cosmic deluge that destroyed the previous world age, humanity emerged unified in purpose and language, collaborating to build a massive structure designed to reach the heavens and establish direct contact with the gods in their celestial realm. The gods, witnessing this unprecedented display of human ambition, became deeply concerned about mortals transcending their earthly limitations. In response to this cosmic rebellion, they confused human speech and scattered the tower builders across the earth. The Bhagavata Purana tells of King Prithu's descendants constructing Indraprastha, literally meaning Indra's place, in a deliberate attempt to storm heaven itself and challenge the authority of the gods. When Indra, the mighty king of the gods, witnessed this audacious human enterprise, he unleashed his divine powers to shatter the tower and divide human language forever. The Brahmanda Purana even provides specific measurements, describing the towers reaching 84,000 yohanas in height, roughly equivalent to 672,000 miles, which would theoretically extend far beyond Earth's atmosphere into space itself. These Sanskrit texts developed completely independently of Middle Eastern traditions across thousands of miles and centuries, yet they contain the exact same narrative structure and thematic elements. Our journey now takes us across vast oceans to find something that should be absolutely impossible, according to conventional historical models. The Hopi people preserve oral traditions describing ancient times when all peoples across the world spoke one harmonious language and lived together in perfect unity. According to these carefully preserved accounts, they built great structures attempting to reach the sky world, where the spirits and creator beings dwelled. But the Great Spirit became furious and confused their speech, scattering them across the continents like seeds on the wind. The Cherokee Nation, they themselves separated from the Hopi by thousands of miles, preserve nearly identical stories of ancient tower builders whose spiritual presumption angered the creator spirits, leading to linguistic confusion and global dispersion. The Aztec Codex Chimalpopoca describes the Teocalli, massive pyramid towers built by the first people after a great deluge. These tower builders spoke one sacred language until the gods confused their speech as punishment for their arrogance in attempting to reach heaven through architectural means. The precision of these accounts becomes even more extraordinary when you consider this crucial fact. These are oral traditions passed down through potentially hundreds of generations by peoples who had absolutely zero contact with the Old World civilizations until Columbus arrived in 1492. Yet, despite complete isolation across vast oceanic barriers, they preserve story elements that match Mesopotamian and Hindu accounts with shocking precision. Ancient Chinese Imperial Chronicles, maintained with meticulous precision by court historians for over 3 millennia, add another layer of credibility to this global pattern. The Classic of Mountains and Seas describes a legendary golden age where all the people shared one celestial language that allowed direct communication with heaven and possessed the power to unite humanity in unprecedented construction projects. According to these ancient records, people built great towers reaching toward heaven to establish permanent contact with the Jade Emperor and the celestial bureaucracy that governed the universe. The Jade Emperor, witnessing their presumption and concerned about mortals transcending their earthly station, confused their speech and scattered them across the earth like seeds in the wind, creating the diversity of languages and nations that we see today. The renowned historian Sima Xian, writing around 100 BCE with access to imperial archives dating back centuries, preserved detailed legends of ancient tower builders whose unity was deliberately shattered by divine intervention. Chinese folklore specifically mentions the Great Confusion of Tongues as the pivotal moment when the original unified civilization fractured into different nations, each speaking distinct languages and developing separate cultures. And of course, Korean and Japanese historical records also contain remarkably similar accounts, suggesting this memory spread across all of East Asia through cultural transmission that preserved core details across linguistic boundaries. Africa contributes its own collection of shocking parallels spanning the entire continent. Maasai oral tradition, preserved by tribal elders with extraordinary precision across countless generations, speaks of ancient times when all the people lived together speaking the same divine language. According to these sacred accounts, they built a great structure attempting to reach Enkai, the one god who dwells in the sky. But Enkai became angry at their presumption and scattered them across the world with different tongues to prevent future unified rebellion against divine authority. Over in West Africa, the Yoruba people tell a remarkably similar story of Olodumare, the supreme deity confusing the speech of presumptuous tower builders who attempted to reach heaven through architectural means rather than spiritual devotion. What makes these African accounts particularly fascinating is their emphasis on technological elements. Many traditions describe these ancient builders as possessing advanced knowledge and construction capabilities that were completely lost when they were scattered. The Ethiopian Kebra Nagast contains detailed references to ancient tower-building peoples whose speech was confused by divine wrath, leading to the formation of different nations and languages. Archaeological evidence from sites like Great Zimbabwe, with its massive stone structures built without mortar, proves that ancient Africans were indeed capable of constructing architectural marvels that could have inspired such legends. So I apologize now if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but the reason it sounds like that is because these stories are so similar in their thematic elements. So what makes this so interesting is that we're possibly uncovering potential evidence of humanity's oldest shared memory, preserved across every continent and culture for thousands of years. This offers unprecedented insights into our species' earliest collective experiences. Now, even the most geographically isolated cultures on Earth preserved versions of this extraordinary story. Hawaiian oral traditions, maintained by master storytellers called kahuna, who memorized thousands of lines of sacred narrative with perfect accuracy, tell of the Menehune, ancient master builders who possessed supernatural construction abilities and built massive structures in single nights, attempting to reach the realm of the gods who dwelled above the clouds. When the deities became enraged at this unprecedented display of human ambition, they confused the Menehune's speech and scattered them across the Pacific Islands, explaining why different island groups developed distinct languages despite sharing similar spiritual concepts. Tahitian legends describe tower builders whose divine unity was deliberately shattered by angry gods, leading to the peopling of different islands with different languages but connected cultural memories. We also have Maori traditions from New Zealand that contain similar elements of ancient peoples building great structures to reach the sky realm, where powerful spiritual beings controlled the forces of nature. These island cultures were completely isolated from outside contact for thousands of years, with no possibility of cultural transmission from other continents. Yet they preserve these stories with identical core elements that match accounts from Mesopotamia, India, China, Africa, and the Americas. Like I mentioned earlier, the mathematical odds of this being mere coincidence are so astronomically small that statistical experts consider it essentially impossible. We're looking at evidence of shared human memory that transcends geographical barriers and spans the entire globe. Even the fierce Vikings and Germanic tribes preserved echoes of this global memory. The Prose Edda describes ambitious Jotunheim giants attempting to build structures reaching Asgard, the fortified realm of the gods where the Aesir maintained cosmic order. When the gods discovered this cosmic rebellion, they destroyed the towers with supernatural force and scattered the giants across the 9 realms of Norse cosmology, preventing future unified attempts to storm heaven. Germanic folklore recorded by the Brothers Grimm includes ancient tales of tower builders whose speech was confused by divine intervention. Stories that clearly predate Christian influence and represent authentic pre-conversion Germanic mythology. Slavic traditions in the primary chronicle describe similar accounts of linguistic confusion following tower building attempts that angered the heavens. The consistency of these accounts across European cultures that developed independently, combined with their structural similarity to accounts from other continents, suggests a common source that predates the formation of distinct European ethnic groups. We're going to head back to the Americas, but we're going to go south to the sophisticated civilizations of South America, where we find contributions of some of the most architecturally detailed accounts. The Inca, master engineers who built structures so precise that modern tools can barely replicate their achievements, preserved legends of the Viracocha, ancient peoples who possessed supernatural building abilities and constructed massive structures, attempting to reach Inti, the sun god who ruled from his celestial palace above the clouds. When Inti witnessed their presumption and technological audacity, he confused their speech and scattered them across the mountains and valleys of the Andes, explaining the diversity of languages found among highland peoples who share similar architectural traditions. The pre-Columbian Popol Vuh of the Maya describes the first people who spoke one divine language and built great towers reaching toward the sky until the gods changed their speech and dispersed them across the earth. Archaeological sites like Sacsayhuaman, with stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together with precision that defies explanation using known ancient techniques, show evidence of incredibly advanced stonework that might represent actual remnants of these legendary tower-building civilizations. The precision and scale suggests engineering knowledge that was indeed lost to history. And finally, our last stop takes us to Earth's oldest continuous culture, Australian Aboriginal peoples, whose oral traditions extend back an estimated 65,000 years, according to archaeological and genetic evidence. Preserved Dreamtime stories that describe ancient peoples building great structures attempting to reach the sky realm where the rainbow serpent and other creator beings controlled the forces of nature and human destiny. And once again, when these powerful sky beings became angry at the human presumption and the audacious attempt to transcend earthly limitations, they confused people's speech and scattered them across the land, explaining why different Aboriginal groups speak hundreds of distinct languages while sharing remarkably similar spiritual concepts. The reason I ended with this one specifically is that Aboriginal culture has been geographically isolated from all other continents for tens of thousands of years. Yet their Dreamtime stories contain the same fundamental narrative elements that we've discovered everywhere else. This represents possibly the oldest preserved version of humanity's tower-building memory on Earth. Now that was a lot, but we just completed our journey across our 12 distinct civilizations spanning every inhabited continent. Cultures that developed independently across thousands of years with zero contact between them. Yet every single one preserved virtually identical stories containing these specific elements. Unified humanity speaking one sacred language, massive collaborative towers built to reach heaven, divine anger at human presumption, supernatural confusion of languages as punishment, and the systematic scattering of peoples across the entire Earth. Evidence like this clarifies why this isn't mythology that we can just dismiss as primitive superstition. This might actually represent humanity's oldest and most important historical record, preserved not in fragile stone tablets, but in the collective memory of our species across every continent and culture. Archaeological evidence from revolutionary sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, with its massive stone structures dating back over 11,000 years, proves that ancient humans were capable of far more sophisticated construction projects than we ever imagined possible. The implications are staggering. We might be looking at preserved memories of humanity's first attempt at unified global civilization, an ancient world-spanning culture that achieved architectural and organizational capabilities that were lost when some catastrophic event scattered our species across the earth and confused our languages. Modern linguistic research has identified surprising structural similarities between languages that should have no historical connection, while genetic studies reveal evidence of population bottlenecks and migrations that align with these ancient accounts. This collective knowledge isn't just transforming how we understand human migration and language development, it's revolutionizing our entire conception of prehistoric civilization and suggesting that our species' earliest history might be far more sophisticated and globally connected than we ever dared to imagine. There you have it, brain train passengers. 12 ancient cultures separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, yet all preserving one incredible story that challenges everything mainstream archaeology teaches about human history. We've just uncovered compelling evidence suggesting the Tower of Babel isn't just biblical mythology, but potentially humanity's oldest shared memory of our species' first global civilization. If you liked this video or other stories like this through time and culture, and they absolutely blow your mind like they do mine, smash that like button and tell me in the comments which cultural version shocked you the most. Don't forget to subscribe to Arnie's Brain Train and hit that notification bell, because I'm constantly uncovering historical mysteries and scientific discoveries that will make your brain do parkour through space and time. Check the description below for all of my sources and references so you can dive deeper into this incredible rabbit hole of human history. And remember, the world isn't always this simple, but it's always this interesting. All aboard, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.